All right. All right, welcome everybody. Come find seats, plenty of seats. My name's Jane Gazzo. I'm a music journalist, and it's an absolute pleasure to be part of the Mornington Peninsula Industry Summit today. I hope you're ready for a great day. This is the first panel that's kicking off, and it's all about branding, themes, and innovation, which sounds kind of fancy, but it's basically how you promote your gigs. And we've got some great people on our panel to help quantify that, or to help answer that question, rather. I'd really like to welcome, she's fresh from a gig last night and she's here bright and early and we love her, Katie Noonan, singer-songwriter and just artist extraordinaire.
Thanks. Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you here, Katie. Thank you so much. We've also got Craig here, better known by his artistic name as Delsinki. Welcome, Craig. Great to have you here. A local. And representing Oztix is Brad Hinds, head of live music at Oztix. So, Brad, really great to have you here. What a great panel. Love it, absolutely love it. We're going to stick to time here, so we're going to jump right into it. Of course, we've got our first morning break at 10:45. Toilets are just around the back. If you need to go, just go. That's fine. And we will be asking you to ask questions. So this is a real audience-led, panel. So if anyone has a question at any point, just look for Beck with the microphone. Look for me with the mic.
Questions are going to be chucked out a free summit too.
Ooh.
Yeah. Think of a good question now, everyone. Only two questions. Bad questions.
All right, so branding, themes and innovation. Let's start with you, Katie.
Yes.
You've had to put on a lot of shows in your time, and you've curated and created a lot of them. What's the first bit of research you do? Say you want to do want to put on a show, a jazz show, for example. What's the first thing you do when putting on a show as far as thinking about your audience and how you're going to brand that show and reach the right audience?
Oh, I've got to say, I don't really think about branding all that much. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I might be in the wrong panel, but for me, music always has to come from a place of authenticity, and that's all I've ever operated with my whole life. And when I started in the music industry 25 years ago, my ambition was to sound like nobody else. So, you know, everybody has a unique story, everybody has a unique sound, every voice is unique. There are hundreds of people with guitars, but there's only one, Jeff Buckley, or there's only one Mia Dyson, or there's only one Jimi Hendrix. You can make your instrument incredibly unique. And if you approach music from that point of view, the branding and all that sort of stuff, I think, is secondary to the art that you make. However, I have operated in record companies and I've been in meetings that were so surreal. Like when I was at Sony, we had a meeting going, what is Katie Noonan and what is Katie Noonan not? And I was just sitting there going, this is too strange. I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm just making my music and you marketing people can think about that. I have always very much loved images as well. So I love making beautiful photos and film clips. And so that's another very important part of your art. But fundamentally as a musician, your storytelling and your authenticity and your honesty is the greatest asset that you have. And then from there, everything else just flows organically, honestly. One other thing, I guess, is that it shouldn't, image is important in the world, I guess, but in music, it's more about what you sound like rather than what you look like, because I don't fit any sort of traditional mould of whatever. And I remember when I've done a fair bit of co-writing, and when I was writing with Sia, who's now crazy famous, but back then was just, Sia from Crisp in Adelaide, she was the same. She didn't fit any of those, traditional constructs of what a pop star should look like. And I just think more and more that doesn't matter. It's what you sound like. That's the main thing. However, also, I do love beautiful looking stuff. So I'm always going to make sure that our imagery reflects the quality of the music in whatever way I can. Yeah.
Wonderful.
That's sort of
Welcome, Logan Jeffs. Logan's on our panel as well. Logan is a well-known Elvis impersonator, so lots of branding and theming going on there. I'll chat to you in a minute, Logan, but I want to ask you, Brad, from Oztix, what are the key elements that make up a strong brand for a music event? And can you chuck the mic over?
Hello. Yeah, I mean, Katie's kind of gone through some of them already, and I totally agree with authenticity and being genuine and true to who you are. But in regards to selling things, obviously you've got to have fantastic artwork that's not too crazy, but just who is it, where is it, what am I buying, things like that. So you've kind of got to have a pretty good vision. Certainly when you're putting events on, there's nothing more frustrating from an event promoter or a venue if you don't have all your assets together,
What do you mean, by assets, yes?
Assets, all of your sized up social media images, some kind of a video content for a reel, and just a really good image of your act, your artist. It's, there's some shit band images out there, isn't there? They're so bad.
But what do you rate as a shit band image, for example?
Oh, if it's a rock band, a couple of guys standing out in an industrial...
in an alleyway.
Yeah, in an alleyway. And it doesn't look authentic at all. And I mean, that's really important. And so many bands, even the bigger bands, even bands that are selling 1,000 tickets a show, some of their assets are terrible.
Right.
But that's because they're focusing just on the music, and maybe their team isn't on top of all the branding stuff. And it's important because we're a visual medium these days. We're all scrolling on our little devices, and you've only got about 2 or 3 seconds to catch someone's attention, and it better be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Craig, would you agree with all of that? And what's your unique brand identity, if you have one?
I agree obviously with both of these guys. I would say probably branding is almost like art in general is trust, and finding somebody, if you're not good at graphic design or photography, finding somebody that you trust and then, using them all the time. And then that way you can communicate and each thing can be different. You don't have to be jotting around and working with different people the whole time because, if you don't trust the person, who knows what's going to happen, sort of thing. I work with one music producer because I really trust him, and that's sort of probably the biggest part for me. As far as branding goes, I'm not really a great example because I kind of just tend to just flit stuff out there, and I should try harder to be better at it, but I'm not. So
well, but that's sorry, I didn't quite. I'm getting the question more now. I'm waking up. Yes, after 25 years of presenting gigs, obviously going back to when we do our own poster runs and screen print them and then put them up around Brisbane and make our own T-shirts and all that stuff. Yeah, branding in terms of clear assets, saying when the gig is, what's the address, what's the time, who's playing, how much is it, where's the Oztix link, etc. And I also work with the same graphic designer who I've been working. I'm hopeless at that stuff. I know what I want, but I don't know how to do it. And, quality photos, like if you've ever seen photos by Wilk, he does a lot of artists. Just that quality brand that just says who you are the minute you look at it. But you've only got a few seconds, which is incredibly difficult. So, you do have to make little bite-sized chunks and make it as easy as possible for the promoter, the ticket seller, the venue to understand your product and what you're ultimately selling. But the hustle of self-promotion is quite boring, but it's a necessary part of the job. Like when I started, it was pre-internet, everybody. We had one of the first internet chat rooms, which was still dial-up, and that was seriously cutting edge at the time. We had our band, we were really into all this technology. We had an interactive DVD, which was cutting edge. CD-ROM, yes, we were all for it. But when Facebook came and I was with Sony, I was like, no one wants to know what the hell I'm doing with my day. Like, who cares about that? And they said, well, we're doing a workshop on what Facebook is and how to do it. And I said, oh, I'm not interested. And then they said, oh, well, if you don't, we'll pretend to be you.
Oh, my God.
And I thought, well, that's really bad, because if you're obsessed with authenticity, obviously that's not the thing. And then Instagram, I was like, no one's going to want to know what I had for breakfast. Like, who cares? And then I obviously have since embraced it and see it as a really beautiful community to share what you're doing, to promote your stuff, to share your political interests and your charitable work or whatever it is that you do, promote your friends' work. But yeah, the self-promotion thing I find quite difficult, but you do have to get over it, and it's just part of the business now. It is a very integral part of the business. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pass the mic over to Logan. Welcome, Logan. Glad you could join us.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Elvis impersonator extraordinaire, amongst other things, but musician, first and foremost.
Yeah, we wear many hats.
Wear many hats. Well, tell us about some of those hats and how you approach putting together shows and thinking about the audience as far as your branding and theming, because there's a lot of themes in Elvis, well, one in particular, but talk me through some of that.
Yeah, well, from the perspective of being, like performance artists doing that and all sorts of different musical projects and DJing and stuff. Branding, if we use the Elvis Big Band as an example, really knowing that the audience and the demographic, and similar to what you've all, echoing what you've all said, postering and things like that, being really simple. People don't have a lot of time to look at things, so I'm looking at how can I get everyone to the website, for example, the least amount of clicks possible. So if we're doing shows across multiple venues, rather than go to the Frankston Arts Centre, go to this thing on every poster, it's one website. Mm-hmm. So we draw everything to Elvis Big Band. This is just the example in this case. So it's really easy to see clear bang on a poster. So rather than this fine printed tickets at www./slot, that's going to get lost really easily, especially if you've got a A0 poster and they're going past it on a tram. Really clear postering, messaging, looking at colour schemes and again, who your audience is, where they are, having a poster that's really going to appeal to them. Is this sort of poster going to be a little bit too avant-garde? It might look cool, but it might just totally weird out the demographic and the audience you're going for.
Do you actually know who your audience is for someone like the Elvis Big Band, and or how would you find out, for example?
Well, it's fairly broad. Obviously, there's an older demographic that by default like that, but because it's multi-generational in this case as well, so we're finding really broad demographic. I advertise across entities like PBS, which you wouldn't normally think would work, but it really does. Putting together a show, there's a lot of moving parts. So again, having really nice imagery, branding, a really clear message about what your show is about. Keeping that simple as well. People tend to, I was reading an article the other day where people seem to read websites almost in an F shape visually.
F shape?
Yeah, the eyes dart. They sort of go like, they'll read the header text and then down and then like this generally and then down again. So if you've got all this filler, it's just not going to get read. So we know this if you're on a tram. I always like this example. You walk past and you see an A0 poster. How much time do you have to read all that? How long's our attention span? Because we're in a world of 15-second reels. So as much as I like to go, we're all about the music and there's these artists and just tell all the wonderful things, we don't have time to do that, unfortunately, because we go, my phone's ringing. Look at that cat reel. Send that to, this is just the reality of the world we live in. So we need to really pop really quickly. And I think talking, really feeling your sentiments about, we want to get on and creating art and playing music and entertaining and doing the things that we do. Having to be a producer, social media manager, and all these other things, it's like, and it can really, I'm sure a lot of you here feel like this can really water you down. Because it's like, I'm not here to be a marketer. I'm here to like run around on stage and do the things I was born to do. So I think there's an element, if we can, is to look to, I think there's a big strength in playing to our strengths as well. I'm not so good at this, but maybe someone else in my band or maybe someone else that I could bring in. Obviously, we don't want to blow budgets and blow the bank on hiring a team of people because we're not Lady Gaga. But, you know, maybe someone in my band is really good at doing socials. Maybe this is a role that they could do. And then therefore I can look after things like making sure tickets are selling and branding and all these other areas. So I think playing to your strengths and saying it's okay that I'm not really good at this. Someone else is, and this is what I'm going to concentrate on. And someone else can do this. But that's working as a team and cross partnerships and promotions with other entities and helping, you know, things like Oztix and Oztix and people like that. Hey, we need a bit of a push. Can you get something out there for us? You know, just using the people around you and collaborating.
Well, Brad, I'll hand that over to you. Data and analytics play a big part in what you do. When you're dealing with emerging talent, because I imagine most of you are emerging talent here, how important is it when an artist comes to you or maybe like a young band come to you and want to sell tickets through you, which is great. How do you steer them? How do you guide them? Is it pretty much what everyone else has said? Because data and analytics play a really key role in who clicks on those links and who buys those tickets at the end of the day.
Before I answer that, Jane, can I just go back to Logan? Elvis died 40 years ago, and talk about a branding exercise that's one of the most successful things in history. I think if you showed a photo of Elvis to most people in any country in the world, they would absolutely know who he is, which is amazing.
That's great branding, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they meant that they didn't have Colonel Parker didn't have a 80-year plan.
No.
But how amazing! Like that today, there's still God, how many impersonators are there around the world? Thousands, and they're all.
The statistics are ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, talk about it's just branding 101. And I'm not sure. I mean, Graceland's not getting $1 out of every one of them. I'm sure they are getting lots of money, and they've carefully cultivated that brand. And you only need to see an image of an Elvis, and you know what the show is going to be. You don't even have to see anything else, right? I don't remember Elvis having a mustache period though.
No. This is the unknown Burt Reynolds phase of the scene.
Cool. Just onto your question, Jane. Data collection, ticketing companies, just so you guys know, we know everything about you. Where there's cookies in all the websites. We know what your IP address is. We know where you're buying the ticket from. And it's not sneaky or anything like that. But yeah, we're holding a lot of data. And all of that data can be passed on to the artist or the promoter or the event manager. It's all accessible to you. One of the key things is email databases. I think in this new world, 2024, a lot of people just don't worry about that. But it is still the number one way to sell tickets to shows is to send emails to people. And so if you're not collecting your email database either on your website or after your shows, you absolutely should be. One, because it's absolutely free. Like you don't have to pay Facebook to cut through to your audience. You can just email people direct. You can have a direct line to them. Even start a two-way conversation if you wanted to. But collecting data from the moment you start doing shows is probably one of the most important things because it's yours. They're your fans. It's your audience, and you need to be talking to them.
How would one collect that kind of email addresses, for example?
Back in the early days, people would go around the show with a clipboard and whatnot, or it might be at the front. But when people are buying tickets online, it's all captured for you.
Right.
There's basically a tick box in all the ticketing platforms. If you wanted to hear more marketing material in the future, please tick the box. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
People should make sure they follow that up after they do a show as well. Make sure they ask the venue for the CSV file
the
opt-ins, because you have to ask for it, or they won't just give it to you.
But they often won't as well.
Yeah, some
Yeah.
some
Well, if they
some people
opt in.
don't. It's a
Yeah.
bit strange. We at Oztix we do. We send your opt-in database to you after the event,
Yeah.
and I've bumped into managers and agents and things, and I've gone, oh, do you know that we've got about 25,000 names for you, and they're like, what?
Wow.
Well, they may have been a new agent that have
Sure.
just come on board, and they're like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? I'm like, yeah, I'll just do the export for you. Boom.
Okay. Wow.
There's your database.
This is
Yeah.
good. This is good to know.
Mm.
This
I
is
mean,
very
social
good to know.
media is great, but this is direct, and as a ticketing provider, we sell more tickets via email than any other medium.
Wow.
Just so you know.
What's the second?
Well, it's directly to the website, like buy tickets at elders.com, and it comes straight to us after that. Yeah.
And then social media.
Surprisingly enough, social media doesn't sell that many tickets.
Okay.
It's about exposure. It's about the reach, getting the reach out there. But it's the traditional ways that sell the tickets.
Craig, I'll go back to you. Who's your audience? Who exactly is your audience? What's your genre / demographic of audience? If you were to put on a show tomorrow, who are you trying to reach?
Probably older people, if I'm
Right.
going to be completely honest. But just as a good example on that, with the email list, there's a guy called Pete Foley who runs a pub called Archie's Creek, and he's been running a thing called Caravan Music, which started in Oakley, and he's built his database over the last 20 years or whatever, and he's got, I'm not sure how many people on his email list, but it's more than 20,000. And when you do a show with Pete, I mean, Archie's is now on ice, it's not open. But when you did do a show with Pete, you could promote it all you want, but when he sent an email list, when he emailed his email list, you'd sell 30, 40, 50 tickets that day, you know. So that's how important that is. My audience, I guess old. We're always trying to get our music to the youth, but I don't think they really give a shit about people who are 40. So I'm working on the oldies.
And Katie, do you encourage any kind of audience participation, like for your event or during your event? Or post-event even?
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to run a number of festivals, little, like smaller ones where I live on Gubbi Gubbi country near Yamundi, and that's very much a community festival, so we have like a community choir and we have community craft stuff, and I fundamentally believe that everybody is an artist in some way. I fundamentally believe that everyone that can talk can sing, and I love sing-along. Most of my gigs will have some sort of sing-along at one point because there's nothing better to make yourself feel good, to feel connected, and to realise our commonality rather than our differences. I just try to break down that, like the barrier between artist and audience, because I'm stuffed without an audience, and hopefully what we're delivering is something that the audience need or want, but we're all equally important in the equation. Community sing-along, community choirs. I've done mass choir events with a choir of 4,000, which was pretty wild. And a lot of, I guess, my festival work has a bit of a fundamental, it has to have a why. Rather,
and that would be the theme, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
in a sense.
To have a reason to exist and to engage people and to think about stuff. So, for example, there was, we all know that domestic violence is a horrific scourge on our society, and there was a report done in Queensland by Dame Quentin Bryce called Not Now, Not Ever, and I read it, and it was incredibly confronting, and I thought, well, what can we do as the state's music festival to try to talk about this horrible thing? And I ended up chatting to the GOAT, John Farnham, and said, can we use your tune and let's do a big sort of choir thing? And we had a choir of thousands, and it was so beautiful because first of all, a banger of a tune that everyone knows, but everyone can sing it and everyone knows and then he was there, and it just, everyone, you felt a part of something bigger than yourself, which is so important. And then the next year we were focusing on regional men's mental health, which is another horrifically intense subject, but you can use the through the schism of music, you can I don't even know if that's the right word, schism.
It's a great word.
I don't really know what I'm saying, but through the portal, the filter of music, you can talk about difficult stuff and realise that, it's an amazingly magical tool. So for that, we had Glenn Shorrock going out to men's sheds in the middle of nowhere in regional Queensland, out in these FIFO mining towns, and singing Help Is On Its Way, which is, a beautiful song about male friendship and honouring the your friends and yourself. And I feel like I'm rambling, but yes, community involvement is core to meaningful festivals, I think. And look, festivals are dying every week. There's a festival falling over. And I do think if there was a little more community engagement, that may be less the case. I would hope so. And, we all pay a huge amount of tax, and there is funding there that exists. I mean, Arts Victoria is one of the better ones, definitely, to put on things that mean something for community. And,
All right, I'm going to go back down to that end of the panel now. If an artist or new band don't know what their brand is or what they represent, what either Logan or Brad, jump in here. How would you work it out? How would you define a brand for yourself?
If you're a new band starting out. Sure.
Because everyone says, you need a brand these days. You can't just be a band. You need to be a brand, and it's because it's so much more now than just the music. Yes, I know the music is paramount, but you have to be so much more now.
I totally disagree. It goes back to Katie's first statement when she spoke. It's about authenticity and being genuine. And if you don't have a brand, that's totally cool. Just be yourself. When you're starting out, you're not expected to have all the answers straight away. And you just got to keep concentrating on your music. And I think whatever your brand is, it will come from that. It all begins with sitting down and writing songs. That's the reason why I have a job. It's all begins, someone in their bedroom is sitting there being a creator, and that's the first thing. And I totally disagree about you need to have a brand. You just need to be authentic. And if it's connecting with people, they will find you. So,
yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think it's again, if you were trying to find, well, then how do we reach people, say via social media, once we've gone out and played it? But go, like you said, just be a good band, be a good artist, be good at what you do. Don't worry about how, because there's a lot of fantastic looking Instagrams out there, but then you go and see the actual product.
Yeah.
Wedding industry, full of it. I'm telling you, because I work in that too.
Yeah.
It's like, yay!
And also, don't be a dickhead. Casey Chambers' great quote. Just, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Be nice, be
go
respectful.
Out, play a lot of shows or just go out and do what you do and go and cut your teeth. Old school grassroots, do what you say. Fall over, make some mistakes. But then, play a lot of shows. If you're trying to figure out who your crowd is, then go and play lots of shows and find out who's coming. And if the crowd isn't quite, like if there's an environment or a crowd that you're not quite into, then how do you, think of ways to play with other bands that don't even, if you're a musician, play with some artists that don't even sound like you. I'm a big fan of cross-pollination gigs. I found that moving to Australia, it's not quite like that. It's more like, well, you're a rock band. You're going to go out and play with a rock band. Like in Wellington, where I'm from, we're like hip-hop band or this electronic band because it's so small you can't snob anyone. But that's how you get really weird, interesting hybrid bands. Like that's how Fat Freddy's Drop happened.
Yeah.
Bogans hooking up with drum and bass DJs. Pretty much. That's what happened. I know. We just hear Conan Moccasin. Totally quirky and weird. Just great hybrid kind of thing. So, go out there and exactly be yourself, and then you'll find your identity by just being you.
Love it.
I think when you're getting an audience too, it's just about winning a fan over one person at a time. That's all it's about. Is if a couple of people in the room become your new fans, they'll bring people next time. I can give, and this is not a dig at Triple J, but I can give you plenty of examples of people who have played all day long on Triple J, can't sell a ticket. No one cares.
That's really interesting.
No one cares. They don't connect with the music. It's been put. And on the flip side, I can show you people who sell 1,000 tickets all over the country, have never been played on radio
Yeah.
because
Wow.
they
Okay.
connect with people.
Okay, that's really valuable advice.
Yeah, so I think I saw this great reel the other day from Ben Lee, who's a great songwriter who's been around for a very long time because he started in a punk band when he was 13 or something.
Noise Addict.
Noise Addict.
Yeah.
And he said, I keep on meeting all these young people and all they know about are their data and their statistics and all the blah blahs and the blah blahs. And as I said, initially I don't really think about that stuff. And I think maybe we are returning, hopefully, to the magic of no matter how much internet there is, no matter how many holograms they might be able to make of whatever, nothing is going to take away from the power of someone singing their song with authenticity in a pub like this. I'm pretty sure I've played here. There's a venue upstairs. Yeah. You know, there are venues everywhere. Every country town has usually a School of Arts hall or a community hall. Like, it's easy for us. Like actors, it's so hard. They need a set, they need a director, they need lighting, they need props, we just need a little vocal PA and, you know, our guitar, and we can put on an amazing show. And I think that comes back to the power of just gigging. Any young artist, they're like, what should I do? I was like, just gig. My son's just started a band with a trio. They're gigging every week, at least twice a week. They're getting paid absolute shit, like maybe $100 for a trio for 2 sets, which is criminally small. But unfortunately, you know, our industry is unlegislated when it comes to unionised income. But they're just getting better and better and better. And I went and saw them on Saturday. I'm obviously pretty biased, but I was like, you could feel the people in the room were going, oh shit, this is a thing. This is a thing. And people were going away, and then the next week there's 10 more people, and then the next week there's 20 more. And it is that build it and they will come. And when we started, we gigged 6 nights a week for weeks and weeks, playing to anybody, anyone that would have us, really. Yeah. Our first gig in Sydney, we played to 27 people, I think, and the pay was 10% of the bar, which was about $27 for a 6-piece band that drove from Brisbane. We slept on the floor, and we did all that stuff because we believed in it, and it made us feel good, and we felt like we were doing something important. And at the time, Kim Thomas, who managed the Whitlams, who were huge then, you know, they'd just had No Aphrodisiac as #1 on the Hottest 100, and that was back in a day when Triple J had power. It actually doesn't anymore. Like, you know, sorry, but it doesn't have the power that it used to have. But he said, get to Sydney you got to go to Sydney and Melbourne 6 times every 2 months. And so we were like, okay. And we just got gigs supporting anybody. Just getting in front of people is nothing will be more powerful than that, no matter how fancy your Instagram page looks and no matter how nice your font is. If you can't put on a great show, you won't have a career.
I'd say
Thanks, Katie.
I put together a thing called the Port Melbourne Music Crawl a few months ago, and there was, I'm not going to name any artists, but I got one particular artist, both well known, and one of them, the manager didn't know the other one, and he wanted billing for his artist. And I said, well, this artist, you know, sold out the corner, and they had a big hit or whatever, and won an ARIA, and he sent me a pie chart of his artist with socials, and I was like, bro, because the band that I was talking about had like 200 followers on Instagram. They don't use it, they don't care, they sell tickets. And I just found that really hilarious. I got the pie chart and I was like, oh, nice one.
Good, thanks.
How embarrassing. Like, you know,
I'm going to open up to you guys because I'm sure you've got a lot of questions, and we've got some great brains here. Great brains here. So has anyone got a question about anything that's been mentioned or raised? Yes, you lovely young lady in the front row here.
Thanks, Miss Gazzo. So as an artist, at what point do you lose control over your branding and imaging when you're partnering up with people that are trying to tell you how they want to see your band or your act?
I could be wrong, but I reckon Katie might
Do
be.
you retain full control over your
I don't think you ever give up control over your brand or image. I mean, Katie's got experience with major labels and they'll try and put you in a box, but as the artist, you're at the top of the tree, you're the CEO of your own company, and you can't ever be forced to do something that you don't want to do.
Although Katie was forced to do her own social media because otherwise your record company was going to do it for you.
Yes, that was a long time ago. Now I'd say every Sony artist. I mean, you see Tones and I plugging away all the time about her stuff. Like, it is this relentless cycle, but that's in, you know, the pie chart's not going to put bums on seats. And at the end of the day, I ultimately, you know, it's a very different time. Albums used to make money. Australian radio used to sound Australian. It doesn't. There's no quotas in place that are legislated to ensure that we're earning the royalties that we should be. I've never seen a top 10 ARIA chart with like 8 albums by one artist, you know, and I love Tay-Tay, but when I was growing up, it was Powderfinger and Something for Kate and Grinspoon and Killing Heidi, and like, it was all Aussie bands. It's a very, very different time, which brings me back to the point that nothing takes away from a live show. But the minute we had success, everyone was like, okay, so you're good. Let me tell you how I can make you better. And we were like, no, we just fought so hard for our authenticity and we actually, apparently, our lawyer was Brett Oaten, who's quite a well-known entertainment law fella. And we were lucky we had labels vying for us. So we were in a position of great control and power that we had by 7 years of independent touring and producing and promoting. And ultimately we went with the record company that would give us complete creative control in black and white in the contract. And apparently that was the first time that had ever happened, So if there were, like, we made the most disastrous film clip for our song Breathing Now. It was like a bad Young and the Restless, Mills and Boone, like, it was just horrific. And it cost a fortune because it was back on film, so it cost like 50 grand. And I just went, that's it. That can't ever be seen by anyone. And then we went, and then we went and the company were like, okay. And then we went and shot our own clip with our mates for 10 grand. And that's the clip that was meant to be. And so, yeah, you are the CEO of your own identity and your music. And luckily I've got an amazing team around me, amazing manager, amazing agent. If you can find someone that's willing to earn 20% of F all in the beginning, then they become part of your journey, then 20% of, becomes a decent salary, hopefully, further down the track.
Have you got something set up now where if people wanted to see that clip, they could?
No.
It's not on YouTube?
No chance.
Damn.
I could never recover.
There's going to be a petition going around.
Oh, it was so bad. It was shot in a hothouse in January. So my makeup was just, and there was an exploding rose. I just remember that.
Arty. Very
Oh,
arty.
shit. No, it's
Terrible.
Seal.
Have we got?
Just that's an incentive for questions.
Okay, best question gets a
That was a good one, though.
Yes. Have we got any questions? It's the students here. Yes, you down the back. Hello, welcome.
Little bit off topic, but as a young artist or young band, what is your best kind of piece of advice for getting gigs? Like actually getting to perform at different venues and stuff.
showing up. Just
Oh, good.
Are you saying you're actually trying to get gigs and you're not successful?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, there's far more acts out there wanting gigs than there are slots available for sure. But let me just turn it back on you. Who's to say that you can't just hire a place and do your own gig?
Yeah.
Get 2 or 3 of your mates' bands together, find a little warehouse or a hall, hire a PA. I mean, forget about the cost part of it, but like, where I'm going with this is you've got to create your own luck and not rely on other people to do things for you.
Or create your own scene.
Yeah, exactly. That's where great scenes come from within, not
That's
from
what's happening in
top down.
Marrickville in Sydney at the moment. All those empty warehouses. A lot of kids are taking over the warehouses, charging $5 at the door. 5-6 bands, and alcohol out of the thing. Not that I'm condoning that, but out of a tub. That they're creating their own vibe and scenes, and they're happening every weekend.
And when you're a young band and you're actually good, I can guarantee you that people talk, the industry talk. We all hear about it. We all hear of some great little hot bands popping through and doing the numbers or creating a vibe. Everyone knows about it pretty quick, and then obviously it's easier to get gigs.
Can I do that? What? How many piece band are you? Six.
Yeah.
All right.
What are you doing that's different? Have you got a USP, unique selling point? How are you not sounding like everybody else?
We've got a violin.
A violin.
Oh,
That's
we had a
pretty
cello.
cool.
We had a
Hey,
cello.
I tell you what you should do. Look up SB Open Mic. There's a guy called Stacey Pommer, son of Billy Pommer from the Johnnings. He runs it. Just look up SB Open Mic. They do a Tuesday night. Go down there and do a gig with him. He'll put all six of you on. It's a great community. It's at the SB Basement Bar. It's always full, and he'll embrace whatever you're doing. I don't know if you're good or bad, but I'm sure it'll all work out.
Are you over 18?
No.
No, that's fine. I
That's
think
all right.
fine.
That's
I think
okay.
That's okay. Yeah,
All
as
right,
long as you've got a
good.
guardian with you. Yeah,
All
do
right.
that. See how you go.
Okay. Thank you.
Good one.
All right.
It's not really a question.
Robin Griffiths, folks.
Robin,
Music on the Hill.
From Music on the Hill and MP Music Network. Just to have a little local perspective.
Just can I interrupt very quickly? Robin is the Pete Foley of the Mornington Peninsula. You do a gig with Robin. If he sends an email out, people will buy tickets.
I'm not that level yet. Just from a local perspective, talking about Brown, I hate the word Brown anyway. It's a point of difference, really. But we have an amazing duo from the peninsula called Sunday Lemonade. Started out
here
as
today.
buskers. So if any of you want to know how to do it, check out Sunday Lemonade.
They're here actually at this
Oh,
event.
brilliant.
I
Yeah,
think they're
and have a
playing
word with
later
them.
today.
I won't go into more, just check out Sunday Lemonade because they put their own gigs on, they travel up and down the East Coast. They're an amazing example of a very good band.
I can agree with that. I book a venue on the Gold Coast, and Sunday Lemonade, Miami Marquetta, and Sunday Lemonade. That they are quite regular people who email in and go, "Hey, we're coming up the coast. We've got this date free. This is our fee, but we're flexible. And they're really DIY. They do it all themselves, and they slog it out there, but they're living their dream, which is awesome.
Well, it's interesting you say they started out as buskers. Tones and I started out as a busker, was discovered by her record company, and gangbusters. So there's something to be said about even just busking,
Absolutely hustling and being part of the whole picture. Like when we started as a band, we didn't have any management. We'd do our gigs, we'd record the gigs, we'd get up and listen to them on the drive and give ourselves notes. That's how nerdy we were. And then we'd just go to street press. I mean, it's so different now. I sound so old. But, we would go into the foyer of Triple J or ABC or Rolling Stone or Juice or Street Press, Beat Magazine, and just be there and just say, "Hi, we're here. I would love to do an interview." Just do anything you can to try to just keep the momentum going. And
basically, you wouldn't leave; you just stay there
I'd just
until
stay there until they saw us.
One thing I'd add to that too is, as someone who is a musician and an artist myself, as well as a promoter and booking gigs and putting things together, I go with the ethos of don't ask, don't get. So make sure you're always on the hustle. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to follow up. And then after the second or third time, give it a miss if you're not getting a response. But definitely follow up. I get emails and I think, ugh. And then, I try to respond to everybody. But because when I was sort of coming up, it gave me the shits that people would just fresh air it. And people would say, no response is a response. Well, I sort of disagree. But yeah, don't ask, don't get. Hustle. Yeah.
If someone comes to you, is it better that they say, "Can we have a support slot?" Or would you rather them go, "Hey, we want to play with our mates' bands, there's 3 bands." Which works for you?
Well, it sort of comes down to whatever it is they're trying to do or what the show is or whatever, but you can kind of gauge how polite people are or whatever in their email. Like, you don't have to be like super duper polite or anything, but, something that's short, succinct, to the point, and, because sometimes people might say, "We want to do a show at this venue." We book a couple of venues. We want to do a show at this venue, and they're not going to sell 100 tickets. So you offer them a support slot, and then if that works, that can work. So I guess it just depends on what the gig is, but it's about being, fairly polite in the email.
Okay.
Can I just expand on that? Just from a venue perspective, I think Jane and I were talking about this earlier, but it's hard. It's running a venue is really tough. It's expensive. You only live and die by what goes over the bar in alcohol sales or beverage sales. So just, keep that in mind. Sometimes when it's a no, it could be nothing to do with your band. There may not be a slot. The booker may be super busy. He couldn't have replied. But, they're always looking on what's best for the venue, and everyone who works in the industry wants music and to support people, but there is an economic reality behind it as well, from a bricks and mortar building, rent to pay. Obviously, there's a financial reality for the musicians as well, but it's more hard money that you lose as a venue if the numbers don't work out. But there's plenty of small 100 capacity venues in Melbourne. You go upstairs at the Gasso, the Leadbeater. There's plenty of places where you could put a bill together yourself and present the whole show to the booker, basically doing his job for them. So,
and because the reality is that you will be emailing venues, a lot. Make sure that you're fairly organised as well. And you've got a clear idea on what dates you want to do. So sometimes going to someone, we're looking for a date in November. These dates here, sometimes having a little bit more like, just any time, just being a bit more direct. They might look at the calendar and go, that's actually free. You might get it like that. Having just a simple, clear, either PDF or either a good EPK as well. Don't just send them, here's our Instagram. Give them, present yourself, make a little PDF of multimedia, some images, a bit of a bio. Just make sure you get so that it's tight and well presented as well, because, as these folks were saying, bookers are really busy. They get a lot of emails, so you're sort of lumping in the pile of hopes and dreams. So if you've got an email, they'll open it. But again, just like the postering, get their attention quick. Here's a PDF. They're organised. Okay, they look good. This is what they're about. I can hear them with 1 or 2 clicks. Don't make them dig through your Instagram and then follow a link tree thing. It's engaged as humanly possible.
Thanks, Logan.
Hi, I just want to add one thing. I've noticed that most bands put on gigs and ask their own friends to support. And the best way to get up to know other bands is go to other people's gigs.
Absolutely.
Get to know them, start talking to them after the gig, not before, when they're nervous, after the gig. And you get to know people, they get curious, they might come to see you play, or they might put you on as the first support slot. And then you grow to that. You get exposed to their audience, your audience will grow, and then hopefully you can headline at one day.
Absolutely agree with that. Networking as an artist is super, super important.
That's what today's about.
Yeah, it is. It is about that. And there's nothing that shits me more than, bands complaining that, maybe no one came to their show. But I always say, do you go and see other local band shows? Do you go out and support the scene? And as this person just suggested, people like playing with their friends. I put a tour together for Spacey Jane last year where we went up the coast to North Queensland, gave them lots and lots of support band options. Guess what? They just chose their best friends from Perth to come and hang out for 3 weeks just because they were buddies. And it was easy as that.
Could I say one thing? When you go see your mates, don't ask to be on the door.
Yes.
Buy the ticket.
Yes.
Value their art and their music. So many people, if you're really broke, if you're a student, if you're a single mum, all those sort of things where you literally cannot afford a ticket, I'll absolutely put you on the door. But if not, get stuffed. You go to see a movie, you pay a movie ticket, you get a coffee, you pay for coffee. Why is my music not worth money?
Also, just quickly, think outside the box. I had this friend who put on a gig, and the next day he got on Facebook and he goes, out of my 5,000 friends, guess how many came to my gig last night? Not one effing person. This big rant. I was like, bro, you should have just said it was such a great gig. It went off. We're playing again next week. Come down and check it
out. Also, to get away, sometimes you want to put your friends on the door, but if the gig is actually free, go, your name's on the door. Yeah. Do that. And then next time when it's a paid gig, they feel like, I've already had my name on the door once. I better pay for this one.
That's a good one.
Different angle. Question, looking for the insights that have come from the Oztix database. So trends over the last few years in terms of demographics, not for the big international acts, but for the lower ticketed acts, local acts. What are the changes you're seeing?
That's a great question.
First of all, the simple answer to that is females buy more tickets than males.
Woo!
Partly because we're all hopeless. You guys are the organisers of the gang. Females are a bit more together. Yeah, it's
That's
about a 65-35 split with buying habits. An average of 1.7 tickets per transaction. There you go. So most of us are buying 2 tickets for other people. In regards to more trends, it kind of just depends on what the artist is. Obviously, if you're hot and you'll smash it out of the park no matter what. But what we have been seeing just lately, just in the last kind of 6-9 months, is the buying late pattern has emerged again.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of it could be the cost of living thing, but I'm not sure that's what it is. The uncertainty around a handful of festivals that have pumped the brakes recently. Most of those are because of the lineup haven't been of the right standard, which is why they've blown it out. A few of them have been poor programming decisions that just didn't connect with the audience. But yeah, definitely the late buying starting to come in again. When you go on sale with an event, it pretty much goes big on the first day and then it flattens, and then spikes at the end, right? Now, if you're putting on an arena show at the Rod Labour, if you're not selling minimum of 50% on the first day, you're probably in trouble.
Yeah.
Because if it flattens out the next day, you're not going to get there. And maybe Gerard will speak to that a bit later on in the next panel from Frontier. But it's a funny one with the marketing and branding thing. You see a lot of people front load all their efforts because you need to get that first couple of days sales, and they back off during the flat period, and they back in the promotion at the end in that last 2 weeks.
Interesting. We've got time for about 1 or 2 more questions. So, anyone? Oh, there's one at the back there. I might just grab that and then I'll grab you, Bang.
Okay. Just wondering, in terms of social media and posting sort of like those asset pictures that you were talking about, is there any trend you've noticed in what kind of gets the best response? Like, should you be posting those things like once a week, or is it once a day? Or because like since you can kind of like pre-program and schedule your posts on Instagram, like it kind of if you could plan ahead and things like that, it kind of takes away the other organisational things that you have to kind of worry about for independent artists. So is there anything you've seen that kind of gets the best response from audiences?
For me personally, but this once again doesn't sell tickets or whatever, but as far as engagement on a fairly low level social media person, a friend of mine was like, you've got to give a little bit more of yourself in the post. So I flit off posts here and there and, you get whatever you get, 5% of interaction or whatever. But then I put up a post saying, blah, 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 I'm feeling this. And it was like, and I thought to myself, that's great, but I'm not going to do that every week. So, I don't know. I think scheduling stuff, I'm not sure how busy you are, but I find that a bit weird. Like, I think it's sort of, if you go back to authenticity, authenticity's probably happened sort of, momentarily or whatever. But once again, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I've just taken the mic because I like the sound of my voice. So.
I don't think there is a metric for that. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. If you've got a release coming up, I guess you can schedule some, a pre-save link to Spotify and things like that. But you don't have to. There's no formula about how many times you should or shouldn't post on social media. It's whatever you're comfortable with.
Aren't we all meant to be doing TikTok though? Like, I refuse to do TikTok. But we're just showing our age. Like, that corner of the room, you're all on TikTok.
Are you guys all on TikTok back there? Yeah.
TikTok and Snapchat is the
Snapchat,
communication.
Isn't that done?
I don't know, Snapchat.
We just put on a show with Alan Caswell, who wrote the theme song to Prisoner. Most of you probably won't know.
Oh, wow.
And he's a bit older, he's 70. He and Lachlan Bryant wrote this song called Stupid People or something. It's been shared 56 million times on TikTok. Not a cent. So,
okay. All right. Yeah, that's another discussion. We've got time for one more question.
Shit. Wow.
I'm just wondering how with Tixel coming out, the reselling marketplace, how does that affect ticket sales? Because I know friends of mine will actually wait and get a ticket at the last minute too. Does that affect ticket sales?
Yeah, some promoters don't like Tixel. So for some of you who don't know, Tixel is a legitimate reselling platform. It has a live API feed into the ticketing company, so we share a live data feed between the two platforms. You can sell your unwanted tickets there for no more than 10%. Hey, when events are sold out, promoters love Tixel.
Yeah, sold out is different.
Yeah, but when they're not sold out,
wait to buy tickets on Tixel because they'll be like,
yeah, look, it is what it is. I mean, it's better than doing it on Facebook Marketplace and getting touched up by a bot or something like that. Or by GoGo. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, the primary sale has already happened, so the promoter of the event has already got the sale, but does it stop other people from getting a primary sale? It probably does. But that's just that would happen anyway. And I often have arguments with promoters going, it's going to happen, whether it's on Gumtree or Facebook, or this is just a complete legitimate way where the ticketing provider cancels the existing ticket and reissues a new one. It's legitimate, it's safe. It's going to happen regardless. So Tixel's doing a pretty good service.
And on that note, I think we might leave it there because we've got morning tea. But would you please thank our wonderful panel, Logan, Brad, Ray, and Katie. Now, these guys have got hot seats, so you might be able to grab a hot seat or chat to them afterwards. We've got morning tea until our next panel at 10:45. And what have we learned today? Authenticity is key. Tour, play live as much as you can. Airplay on Triple J doesn't necessarily sell tickets. And we've lost the Australian sound on radio, but authenticity, I think, and keep at it is probably the key takeaway today. Thanks so much for being our first panel here at the Mornington Peninsula History Summit. Oh, and the T-shirt goes to?
Whoever I promised the T-shirt for asking questions, and the black or white, I'm thinking.
All right, just if you ask a question, see this lovely lady.